the Jayda InStitches show. It's June, the halfway point of the year, and it's time for the 6th installment of our Fair Isle Style calendar blanket. And this month, we are going to make some diamonds. Ha! The diamond shape is a quintessential Fair Isle staple, so we just had to add some to our blanket this year. You can make your diamonds open, like I have. You can make them solid colored, like all be. You can even opt to do the inside a third color, kind of like I did with my heart samplers back in February. Whatever you want to do, we are taking a break from the spools this month. So you're just carrying your color all the way across. So no spool juggling, no tangling bobbins to worry about. It's much like the tile pattern we did in March. So you'll just be carrying it all the way across. And as such, you want to maybe have a little bit extra of that bee color because you are carrying it all the way through. I really like the diamonds and I hope you will too. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn. We'll head on over to the craft table and we will stitch up some Fair Isle style diamonds together. For our June diamond pattern, we are going to use the same yarn we've been using all along. For me, that's a 100% acrylic, size 4 medium. You want around 100 yards to be safe of each color. Now, if you're going to fill in your diamonds, so you're filling in the middle of the diamonds, you want solid color diamonds, you're going to want a little extra bee. So maybe bank on 150 yards of bee. That's if you want a solid diamond. You want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, the same hook you've been using all along. For me, that's a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. Of course, you want your blankets, and there is no need for spools this month. Our diamonds all touch each other, so it's just easy to carry one color all the way through each row rather than switching from spool to spool. So a little break from the spools this month. And once you've got all that together, we can get started. As usual, I highly recommend you make a sampler of today's pattern. This will give you an idea of when the rows repeat. This is a fully mirror image, top to bottom, left to right image, so there's lots of fun repeats in this. It's also a nice way to fiddle around with some colors. You might want to make your diamonds solid. You also might want to make the insides of the diamonds a completely different color. So a color A for your background, a color B for your diamond outline, and maybe a color C for the inside. It's also fun to try out some variegated or self-striping yarns, and occasionally things look better when you've put hook and yarn together than they sometimes do sort of musing about it as you stare at your stash. So I highly recommend doing a sampler or two. As always, we will have a version of our graph up here in the top corner, and that will stay up for the whole tutorial. So if you are moving a little faster or a little slower than me, it will always be there, and you can sort of just pause the video at any time and take a look at it to catch up. I will be explaining when to change color, obviously, as we go row by row by row. And if you wanted to do the full solid diamond option, I'll make a note of that for you as we go through today's tutorial. I finished May by just putting a little safety pin in my working loop so that it didn't want to fall out on me. I'm going to take my safety pin out now and set it aside because I will be using it later. And I'm going to put my hook back in my working loop. I am continuing with my color A, which in this case is white. Chain 2 and turn. The chain 2 at the beginning of every row counts as a double crochet. We are using the double crochet stitch throughout. Let's take a look at the graph. Row 1, as it usually is all color A. So this is representing one full repeat of the graph. I'm repeating my graph 6 times. I know some of you are doing different repeat numbers, but 20 stitches is one full repeat. All 20 stitches in row 1 are color A, so there's no need to change colors yet. If you're right-handed, you start here. If you're left-handed, you start over here, but this is a fully mirror image, top to bottom, left to right, so it technically doesn't matter where you start. You won't end up getting confused and it won't change the look of your pattern. So 100% color A, that is just a double crochet in color A all the way across. Remember, if this first stitch is used by your chain 2, so you start every row in the next stitch. You're just going to double crochet using color A all the way across, and that will be 6 full repeats of the 20 stitches of the graph. So 120 stitches for me at the end of row 1. Remember, the last stitch of every row is worked into the top of that chain 2, because the chain 2 counts as a double crochet. You should have an even number of 20 repeats, or 120 stitches in my case. That's 6 repeats of 20, so 6 times 20, 120. And 120 stitches, all of it in color A. So row 1 was all color A. We're going to chain 2 and turn, because row 2 starts with color A. So we chain 2, we turn. I'm going to try and make my blanket a little smaller here so we can all see what I'm doing. Let's grab the graph. We will be introducing color B in row 2. Row 2, right, you're over here, left, you're over there, but technically, because it's mirror image, it doesn't really matter what side of the graph you read from. We start with a chain 2 that counts as stitch number 1. There are 4 stitches of A to begin, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, repeat. So 4A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, repeat. That's all 20 stitches. Let's get her going. So that chain 2 counts as the first double crochet. I'm going to double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Remembering, when I get to stitch number 4, I work the first half of it because we are going to change colors. I'm going to get my lovely coral in here. This is so pretty. This is my color B. I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to work it right in. There we go. So I've changed colors. Now remember, you're carrying yarns throughout. So I'm going to work 2 double crochet now over the next 2 stitches in color B. Just making sure I tug down a little bit. Working over color A, I work the first half of the second stitch, but there's a color change coming, so I drop color B, I pick up color A, give it a little tug. You want to make sure there's nothing kind of sticking out the other side. Finish that stitch, but of course it still has the right color sitting over top. And now it's 8 stitches in color A. You're carrying color B. So you want to work over top of color B. You don't have to work over top of your little short tail. In fact, you know what? I'm going to leave mine out, and I'm just going to weave it in later. I don't really want that extra bit of color there. But you are working over top of color B. Come here, you little tail. Stay out of the way. I'm working my 8th stitch in color A. I'm only going to work the first half of it because there's a color change coming. Now you see that color B has been kind of bumping out underneath my color A, so I want to just pull on that gently, and that will smooth it down and make it mostly disappear. I think part of the charm of carrying colors in Fair Isle style crochet is that you see a little bit of the color poking through. That looks like woven tapestry to me, so I think it's kind of part of the style. I like it. I'm going to finish off that stitch with the color B. And now it's 2 double crochet in color B. You work the first half of the second stitch in color B, drop B again, pick up A to finish, and then it's 4 more double crochet to finish the repeat of the graph in A. Working over top of color B, we're not dropping it because we are carrying it all the way through the row. There we go. So that is 1 full repeat of the graph. That's 20 stitches. 4A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A. You're going to repeat that all the way across. Remember that when you drop a color, you are carrying the other one. It's a little different than normal because we are not dealing with the spools this time. And I will catch up with you at the end of row 1. As you get across to the end of row 1, so I'm on the last repeat of my graph. There's the first 4 in A, 2 in B, 8 in A, I've worked the first half. I'm switching back to my B color to finish. 2 in B, work the first half of the second one. And because we're at the end, you're just going to drop B completely. So I'm just going to pull mine to the front. Doesn't matter whether you pull it to the front or the back, because we're not really fiddling with a lot of spools, but do try to remember, like if you joined it on the front and you've been working kind of with it coming from the front, leave it on the same side. Most of my yarn is coming from the side because I've got both balls feeding from the same direction. So where your yarn starts and stops is less important when you're just carrying one all the way across. Finish that stitch with A, and then your last 4 stitches in the row are A. Don't work over top of B. We are done with that. And that last double crochet is worked into the top of the chain 2. So that is row 1 complete. Every 8 white stitches there are 2 B stitches, or every 8 A there are 2 B. Something to keep in mind, making sure that it's not bulging out on the other side. Looks good, looks good. Okay, chain 2 turn. We are still using A to begin and end row 3. So I'm just going to carefully move my work over, move both yarns to the back. There we go. Let's grab our graph. Row 3. Right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over there. But it doesn't technically matter for this time because everything is a complete mirror image of itself. That chain 2 counts as a double crochet. 2 more in A, so 3A to begin. 4B, 6A, 4B, 3A, repeat. 3A, 4B, 6A, 4B, 3A, repeat. So I'm going to work 2 more in A. Work the first half of that 3rd stitch, and then I'm going to pick up my B and finish it. Now there's a bit of a reach. Remember, you're always looking on front and back. You're looking for a reach in case it happens. When you work your first stitch in A, or I should say in B for this row, you are making sure you grab the carry, but because we are only doing 1 carried yarn and not a bunch of spools, you only have to worry about this once for row 3. So make sure you grab it, you're carrying A, work 3 more in B, that's the 4th stitch in B, drop B, finish it with A, and remember you're working over top of B. Now it's 6A, before you finish that 6th stitch, when you have a long carry, make sure that you pull that carried yarn so that you kind of clean it up underneath those stitches. 4B, switching back to A, remember you're always carrying the other stitch, or I should say you're always carrying the other color, and we're finishing with 3A. That finishes 1 full repeat of row 3. So there we go. 3A, 4B, 6A, 4B, 3A, repeat. So we're starting to create our little diamond shapes. You're going to repeat that all the way across, and I'll catch up with you at the end of row 3. I'm finishing row 3. I'm just working my last color change. I'm dropping B. I am done with B. This was the last use of it, so I'm just going to drop B out the front or the back, doesn't really matter. Finish with 3 double crochet with A, remembering that last double crochet is worked into the top of the chain 2. And that is a complete row 3 all the way across. Let me just give you the better view of that there. So you've got the bottom of the diamonds happening. You should have 2 diamond bottoms for every row repeat. So for me, that's 6 graph repeats, 2 diamonds per graph. I've got 12 diamond bottoms going. Chain 2 and turn. We are still using color A to begin and end our rows. Carefully move that over. And let's grab our graph. Row 4. Right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over there, but doesn't really matter. That's our chain 2. One more in A, so it's 2A to begin, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, repeat. 2A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, repeat. That is row 4 all the way across. So our chain 2 counts as one of those A's. We've got to work one more, but it's the stitch before a color change, so we're going to make sure that we only work half of it. And I gotta make sure my yarn doesn't want to get grabbed by the side of my blanket here. There we go. There's going to be a bit of a carry, so I'm going to finish that stitch. Because my yarn was on the front, you can see the carry. Remember, you're always looking for a carry when you do a color change. But because we're carrying our yarn throughout, that's only going to occur once this row. So I'm going to work a double crochet into the next stitch with B, and then one more with B. So that's 2B, change, 2A, remember you're always carrying the other color, change, 2B, change, 4A, change, 2B, change colors, 2A, change colors, 2B, remember you're always carrying the other color, and 2A to finish the graph. Okay, so this is the row 4 repeat, 2A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, repeat, 2A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, repeat. So you've got the diamond opening up. Now, if you are making your diamonds a solid color, your repeat is 2A, 6B, 4A, 6B, 2A, repeat. So remember where I would be changing for my open diamond, if you're making your diamond solid, you're just working 6A through there. So you're not, or I should say 6B, you're not switching for the A in the middle. So if you're making solid diamonds, it's 2A, 6B, 4A, 6B, 2A, repeat. But I'm working the open diamond. Remember to look at the graph if you get confused, and I'll see you at the end of row 4. I'm just nearing the end of row 4, so I'm making my last color change and I'm dropping B. I no longer need it until the next row. I'm finishing with 2A, that last double crochet worked into the top of the chain 2, and that is it for row 4. So I've got the very obvious bottoms of 12 diamonds going. My diamonds are open, and again, if you were making closed-in diamonds, instead of doing that extra 2A in between your V or that diamond bottom, you'd be making it a solid B all the way across. So that's where we are, the end of row 4. Row 5 does begin with A, so chain 2 and turn. And let's take a look at the graph. Right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here. This is our chain 2. It's 1A to start, then 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, repeat. If you are doing the solid diamonds, it's 1A, 8B, 2A, 8B, 1A, repeat. So you'll be using a lot more of your B if you're making it solid, but for the rest of us, we're still doing that sort of 1 on, 2 off, 4 on, 2 off, that kind of a thing. So let's get 5 started. This is row 5. Our chain 2 in A counts as the first double crochet of the row. We're immediately switching to B and carrying A. So I'm going to wrap my yarn, and again, you're missing that first stitch because that's your chain 2, that counts. You're going into the second stitch, and I'm working over top of my carried yarn. Now don't worry about the top of that stitch being a different color. If you wanted to be picky, you could always chain 1A and then a second with B just to make that color change at the side if you wanted to be picky. But don't worry about it because the sides of our blanket will be covered by our border, so it's not that fancy or important. One more in B, and then we're switching back to A. Remember, you are carrying the color, you are not working. We are moving to 4 in A, but if you are making solid diamonds, you are sticking with your color B. That's the 4th in A. I'm going to pick up B, carrying A, 2B, switch back to A, and now it's only 2A, so everybody does 2A, and then back to B, 2B if you're making the open diamonds, or 8B if you're making the closed diamonds. So I'm switching back to A because I'm making open diamonds. It's 4A for the middle of the diamond. Switching back to B, carrying A, 2B, switching back to A, 1A to finish the graph, and there is the row 5 of the graph. So 1A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, repeat. If you are making it solid, it's 1A, 8B, 2A, 8B, 1A, repeat. So a lot of B in there if you're making solid diamonds. Otherwise, you're still kind of on, off, all the way across. 5 more repeats of that, and I'll catch up with you. We're at the end of row 5. I'm just changing colors. My last color change, I switched to A for 1 stitch at the end, and I'm carrying B. So I'm going to work the top of that chain 2 with my double crochet, but I am carrying B. So I'm still working over B. And then, this is not necessary, but it does help kind of carry the colors up the side of your blanket a little nicer. Because we need to start row 6 with B, I'm going to finish the top of that last double crochet by switching colors. I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to turn my blanket. So I'm going to grab my 2 yarns, grab my blanket, spin it around, get them both ready here. All right, let's look at the graph for row 6. Row 6 is the only row like it. It's a unique row. It starts with B. So it's 2B to start, and then we switch to A for 6, 4B, 6A, 2B, repeat. 2B, 6A, 4B, 6A, 2B, repeat. This is the only row like it, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are exact mirror images of these 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we'll get to that, but B is the only unique row in this entire pattern. So we start with B. We want to make one more before we switch to A. If you are making your diamond solid, this entire row 6 is all B. So if you are interested in saving some yarn, you can snip off your A and then rejoin it for row 7, or you can just carry A all the way along row B. That's if, or I should say along row 6, if you're only using B because you're making your diamonds solid. So if you do not need to change colors, you can either work over top of A and carry it the whole way, or snip it off and then join again for row 7. It's up to you. That's a nice little way to save a bit of yarn, but if you don't really want to worry about weaving in ends, then just carry your A all the way across. For the rest of us, 2B, 6A, 4B, 6A, 2B, repeat. Let's go. That chain 2 counts. We've got one more. I want to work over top of my A, so I'm going to make sure I scoop down and pick it up when I work that second stitch. But I am not finishing it because now I've got to change colors. So there's the first 2 stitches of the row is B. I'm now changing. I'm going to carry A for 6. And when you carry a color for a while, always make sure that you give it a gentle tug so that you don't end up with anything bulging out between your stitches. Then it's nice and solid there. Changing to B. It's B for 4. I'm carrying A. Changing colors, back to A. Six in A, carrying B. There we go. Changing colors, back to B, and it's 2B to complete the first row repeat. And there we go. 2A, 6B, 2B, 6A, 4B, 6A, 2B, repeat. This is the only row that starts and ends with B with A in the middle. Now again, if you're making solid diamonds, it's just B all the way across. You can repeat that 5 more times and I'll catch up with you. I'm just ending the row 6. I've worked my last 6 in A. I am switching back to B for the last 2 stitches of the row, but I'm going to carry A because I'm going to start the next row with A. So my last double crochet is worked into the top of the chain 2. That's this little guy right here. And I'm going to just pull my B forward. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to change colors and finish that stitch with A, just so I have a solid end, but then I can start with A on the next row. So I'm going to chain 2 because row 7 is an exact repeat of row 5. It starts with the chain 2 in A and then immediately goes to color B. And let's just turn our blankets around. And we will take a quick look at the graph. So row 6, the completely unique row, the full bottoms of our diamonds are done. And now from here on out, it's just a repeat of the rows that came before. So row 7 is an exact repeat of row 5. We start with a chain 2 in A, but immediately switch to B for 2, A for 4, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 1A, repeat. Or if you are making the solid diamond, it starts with a chain 2 in A, and then 8B, 2A, 8B, 1A, repeat. So exactly the same as row 5. I've chained 2 in A, I'm immediately switching now to B. I'm going to carry A, and I'm just going to grab that carry just so I can pull it aside. I don't really want it showing underneath. And then another one in B, and now I'm switching back to A. So that's it. I have my little chain 2 in A, that's my start, back to B for 2, and then A for 4. It's just like row 5, and I'll see you at the end of row 7. I'm finishing row 7. That's my last stitch in B. I'm dropping it. I'm switching back to A, and I need to finish the row with 1 double crochet in A in the top of that chain 2. And I've dropped B completely because now it's just going to get carried further inwards with the beginning or end of each of these rows. So chain 2 with A to turn. Chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and of course row 8 starts with A, as do all the rows from here on out. And let's take a look at the graph. Row 8 is a repeat of row 4. We begin with 2A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 4A, 2B, 2A, 2B, 2A, repeat. Again, if you are changing colors, I should say not changing colors for the insides of your diamond, then you're working 2A, 6B, 4A, 6B, 2A, repeat. So again, row 8 is a repeat of row 4, no matter which you're doing, the open diamond or the closed diamond. If you're doing the closed diamond, this is the last time that your rows will vary from the open diamond, because everything else is the same regardless of which version you're doing. Row 8 though, repeat of row 4. I will see you at the end. I'm at the end of row 8. I've changing colors for the last time here. I'm going to finish the row with 2 stitches in A. I'm dropping B completely. I do not need it for the end of the row, and I don't need to carry it. So that's my last 2 stitches in A. And now we've got our diamonds almost closing in on us. Chain 2 with A and turn. Back to the graph. Row 9 is a repeat of row 3. So we begin with 3A, 4B, 6A, 4B, 3A, repeat. And now It doesn't matter whether you're doing the closed-in diamond or the open diamond. Rows 9, 10, and 11 are all identical for all of us. So 3A, 4B, 6A, 4B, 3A, repeat, and I'll see you at the end of row 9. As you near the end of row 9, you're going to do your last color change. Drop B to the front or the back, doesn't really matter. You're going to finish with 3A. And that's row 9, all wrapped up. You've got almost all of your diamond done. We've got one more row of color change to go. Chain 2 with color A, because row 10 begins and ends with color A. Turn everything around. Let's go to the graph. Row 10 is a repeat of row 2. So we've got either side you're starting on, 4A, 2B, 8A, 2B, 4A, repeat. So row 10 is an exact replica of row 2. Remember, you're always looking for those reaches at the beginning of a row, especially when your color B is starting or ending before or after. So I'm just going to grab it and work over top of it. So that's my 4th stitch of row A, or I should say my 4th stitch of color A. I'm switching to B. I'm going to carry B, or carrying A and working to B, switching back to A, and now 8 of A, and then 2B, 4A, repeat, and that'll be it for the color changing. I'll see you at the end of row 10. Our last color change in row 10, I am switching from B back to A. I'm dropping B completely. I'm finishing the row with 4 stitches in A. And then I can snip B and get it out of my way completely. Remember to leave yourself a little bit of tail because you want to be able to weave it in and not have it unravel on you. So just a little bit, but that's it for B. You can get rid of it. You're going to chain 2. We've got one more row to do. We're on the home stretch here. Row 11 is just like row 1. It is 100% A. So all A all the way across. That's 120 solid stitches all the way across in A. That is 11th row, last row of the diamonds. We're on the home stretch. And there we go. That is June all done. Row 11 is complete. I'm going to take my hook out, put my little safety pin back in so that my loop does not want to undo. That way I'm all ready for July when it rolls around. That's 2 complete diamonds for every graph repeat. I have 12 in total and I love it. Diamonds are such a integral part of a lot of Fair Isle designs, and they're a lovely way to celebrate June. Diamonds are a girl's best friend after all, so saith Marilyn Monroe. And I just love the bright, bold graph repeat of that diamond. It really sets off everything else we've done so far. I really like these connecting patterns. It's a major part of the Fair Isle knitting style of artwork. These connecting patterns that kind of go all the way around the neck of a sweater or all the way across an entire blanket. So I really like being able to add some of these into the blanket. And they feel different when you're making them than they do the separated images. It's kind of neat. I like that tessellating look. Anyway, those are the diamonds. It's hard to believe we are 6 months into the blanket already. I know I say this every year, but June just sort of suddenly arrives. I feel like you're getting through January and then February and then March and then, you know, April gets here and then all of a sudden it's June. I don't know what happened to May, and it's a 31-day month. Anyway, We hope you enjoyed stitching up some diamonds along with us this month, and we will see you soon here on the Jayda InStitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye, everybody!
Hi, everybody! Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.